So I'm seeing articles pop up. Pixar exec Pete Doctor says Lightyear asked too much of the audience. Pixar's chief creative officer Pete Docter has taken some time to reflect on the dismal reception of the company's most recent Toy Story based production, Lightyear. After a bit of soul searching, Docter has summed up the film's problem as a matter of not playing into the feeble expectations of the audience. Feeble is what they think of you and me. We've done a lot of, this is his quote, we've done a lot of soul searching about that because we all love the movie. We love the characters and the premise. Now, Doctor tells The Rap, another quote, I think probably what we ended on in terms of what went wrong is that we asked too much, sorry, stupid ads, of the audience. When they hear Buzz, they're like, great, where's Mr. Potato Head and Woody and Rex? And then we drop them into the science fiction film that they're like, what? Even if they've read the material in the press, it was just a little too distant, both in concept and I think in the way that characters were drawn, that they were portrayed. It was much more science fiction. With some of the newer Pixar projects doing directly to streaming, that's what it says, it's harder to simply equate success with box office numbers. Lightyear was the first Pixar film to hit theaters since 2020's Onward, which also tanked comparison to previous outings. However, when looking at Toy Story 4, the discrepancy is clear, with Lightyear earning 226 million worldwide compared to Toy Story 4's whopping 1 billion. From the critical perspective, Lightyear hit lows not seen since 2017 Cars 3, resting low for Pixar, 74% Rotten Tomatoes. Now, here's one of the issues I have with right off the bat. Buzz Lightyear Star Command exists. From what I know, because my friend's kids went to Disney, there is a ride there for it. So, and they had to wait. So if you're going to sit here and say, oh, people expected Mr. Potato Head, then why is the ride based off of the Star Command, which is not Mr. Potato Head or any of the Toy Story characters? It's Buzz Lightyear and his adventures and how they got the Star Command. So saying that doesn't make sense. That sounds like you making some kind of an excuse. And the problem is that besides the fact that the movie, because I didn't get to review the movie, so I'll tell you right now, is hot garbage. Like, it doesn't make sense. A lot of things that they do, it's very annoying. It's downright boring for a lot of kids. I don't know any kid, like I did on one video, which you'll see. A kid was like, I don't want this. And the mom ended up giving it to me. I was like, all right, let me pass you a couple bucks for it. Just, I was like, I have this Buzz Lightyear thing, and I'll show it in my video. People don't like it. It's not the fact that you did it. Why couldn't you have done something with Buzz Lightyear Star Command? You did a completely different film, and Buzz Lightyear is not Buzz. Like, he's very different. He doesn't have that je ne sais quoi that Tim Allen did as Buzz Lightyear or even on Star Command. It actually felt like a completely different movie. And what they probably should have did is maybe just did a different movie or named it something else. But the stuff didn't make sense. There was things like, like for example, there was this plant monster joke. It didn't make sense because everyone was like, oh, the plant monster, boom, and took care of it like immediately. So it's like, what? And I think this is coming out now because of that announcement with Toy Story 5. And I did hear that Tim Allen's supposed to be back. And even on this article, or actually I've talked to people where they were like Luca turning red, even though they tried to really push it. Onward, which I actually thought Onward was actually a pretty decent movie, but I felt like it could have been better. And some people even told me Soul. They're not good in comparison to what came before with Pixar. And that's a problem. Like, And how I know, I don't see people talking about them. I don't see toys on these things. I don't see kids going, "Oh man, I can't wait to go watch Soul." Now, and please don't pull that. Oh, my kid liked it. Yeah, okay, your one kid liked it. The overall consensus is these movies that I just named, Luca, for example. I don't even know any my friends who have kids and stuff, and my nieces, nephews, cousins. I don't know anyone that even watched it. Not one. And we're talking from age 2 all the way up to age like 15. Not one of them watched it. And Turning Red, I only had my one friend, he said his kids and him watched it. He was liking it. And his kids sort of just got bored and they was like, we're going to do something else. So, you have that. And the dude was talking about Chris Evans, and he said something like about how he asked too much of the audience and he's disappointed that they didn't get it. Like, I'm disappointed in the audience. Dude, don't blame the audience. That was your fault. You decided to make all these extreme changes on this franchise and you tried to do a spinoff and it didn't work because you literally, it wasn't just the fact you did a sci-fi adventure, which was not a good sci-fi adventure, mind you. You basically just didn't do Lightyear. Like, it didn't feel like Lightyear outside of names. And then they were saying this thing too where they were like, oh, it's because of the bigots who don't like LGBTQ. Okay, it's a throwaway scene. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, I don't care. I'm about to spoil it right now, so put your fingers in your ears or something. It's a throwaway scene with a kiss, and there's an unexplained scene that doesn't actually make sense how they represent the LGBTQ. It literally doesn't make sense how they did it. And it's so fast, they cut it out. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, they did cut it out. People got upset because, once again, instead of actually doing real representation, they decided to do these quick things that they could say, see, we're here, BLM, LGBTQ, yes! And then they could cut it out and give it to their appeasing overlords of China and stuff like that. And even in this article, it even says, because like I said, he's talking about how the audience couldn't raise the occasion, he was disappointed. And they're talking about like hard lessons. Yes, viewers may love Tim Allen's Buzz Lightyear, the action figure, but many could not muster up the same excitement for the man the toy was based on, voiced by Chris Evans. So that's in here, right? And as a result, Lightyear, despite its well-baked origins, paled in comparison to recent original stories like Luca and Turning Red, which currently is in the Oscar race for Best Animated Film. Sure. They tried to turn Turning Red into a political thing, which was weird. Inside Out and Coco. I do know people who watch Coco, admittedly. People like Coco. But, like, Inside Out, these things, I don't really see people on them like that. But it says, contrary to Doctor's idea, Lightyear's failure was not a matter of the audience rising to the occasion, but more that the story was probably not worth telling in the first place. So that's what this article particularly says. And what it really comes down to is they have to stop every time something is bad and people don't like it. They have to stop this whole narrative of it's something you're dealing with race or something dealing with the LGBTQ community or some form of prejudice. And maybe, just maybe, it's just bad. And if you're going to do identity politics because you just feel you have to, then give them real identity. Like, don't just have it be some throwaway scene. If the character is the character, okay. But also, too, stop promoting it like it's like the fact that he was like, oh, I saw one article where he was like, oh, it was the people had a problem with the LGBTQ character. No, Mitchell's vs. Machines didn't have an issue with it. The problem is you also can't just promote that or what we represent it. Stop treating people of that community like they're some kind of unicorn. They are people. They have different beliefs, different systems, different ways. They're not all the same, all these things. And the fact that your way of doing this is this one-off quick scene, I mean, is that real representation? So don't blame the audience because it was not the audience's fault. It was your fault for failing to deliver. You're sitting there saying the audience didn't understand it. Well, the audience is who you're supposed to appease. So if you're not appeasing the audience because they didn't understand it, apparently, you still failed at your job because you didn't convey what you were trying to do. So it's your fault. What it really comes down to is this. Stop making things with these politics and things like that. Put your heart and soul into it. Some of it still comes out and does very well. But this narrative where you're taking a beloved franchise and then completely changing like everything about it, I think besides the suit, even the main villain was different. How they did it. Like this was, and it was stupid because it was so weirdly obvious, and they just spoon fed it to the point of dumbness. And it didn't make sense because it was like, one minute we want to do this, now we don't. Now we're back to doing this. This wasn't a sci-fi adventure. This was like Interstellar attempt. And it didn't work. So, Mr. Doctor or Doctor or whatever your name is, Pete, take the L. Sit back. Figure out what audiences want and deliver it. Because you can't sit there and use that excuse of people wanted Mr. Potato Head when we live in a world that Buzz Lightyear's Star Command exists and actually has a ride. It was a completely different character, and it didn't associate with audiences because that was more like, I'm trying to think, it was more like you did a fan fiction. And this should have been more of a modern take, a refreshing of Buzz Lightyear's Star Command. But instead, you got something else, and I don't know what it is. I know it had like 60-something episodes or whatever, so you just should have just stuck with that. And also, too, if you're saying, oh, people didn't want the voice change, found it. Captain Buzz Lightyear was voiced by Patrick Warburton, not Tim Allen. Yet nobody seemed to have a problem with it. So, like I said, tell me what you think. The fact that they blame the fans, when you have people constantly blaming fans, that means that they're failing and they don't know what they're doing and they can't take responsibility. Geek Protagonists, you stay safe, you stay healthy, you stay real, and I'll see you.